The Shortcut to Smart: How to Learn More by Studying Less, a motivational audiobook by the Protocols of Astrian. Before we start, if you ever feel like you are walking through fog alone, hit subscribe and let these audiobooks be your quiet companion through every season. You know that feeling, right? The clock is ticking, the pile of books or screens in front of you looks like a mountain, and your brain already feels like it is melting. For so long, we have been told that the only way to get smart is to suffer through long hours, to drink another cup of coffee, and to stare at pages until our eyes burn. But what if I told you that this is all a trap? What if the hours you are putting in are actually the very thing holding you back from being truly smart? We have been taught to worship the idea of hard work, without ever stopping to ask if that hard work is actually working. You are not here because you are lazy. You are here because you are smart enough to know that there has to be a better way to learn, a way that gives you more knowledge while actually giving you back your precious time. This book is your permission slip to stop grinding and start winning. We are going to take everything you thought you knew about studying and flip it upside down. We will explore simple tricks, fun mental games, and tiny changes to your daily routine that will make you absorb information like a sponge, all while studying less than you ever have before. Imagine walking into a test, a meeting, or a conversation feeling calm and confident because the knowledge is just there, stuck in your brain without you having to chain yourself to a desk for hours. That is the goal, that is the shortcut, and it is available to anyone who is willing to try a new path. So, take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and get ready to discover the smart, easy, and exciting way to become the sharpest version of yourself without sacrificing your life to do it. The journey starts now, and it is going to be a lot more fun than you ever thought learning could be. Chapter 1: The Full Tank Myth. You sit down at your desk after a long day, your eyes are heavy, and your stomach is growling, but you tell yourself that you just need to push through one more hour of study. You open your book, but the words just blur together, and you read the same sentence 5 times without understanding a single word of it. This is the moment where most people think they are being disciplined, but in reality, they are just wasting their time. Trying to learn when your body is tired, hungry, or stressed is like trying to drive a car on an empty tank of gas. You can sit there and press the pedal all you want, but the car is not going to move an inch. Your brain is a physical organ, and just like your muscles, it needs fuel and rest to perform at its best. When you ignore this simple fact, you are not learning. You are just practicing the art of staring blankly at a page, and that is a skill nobody wants to master. We have to stop glorifying this kind of suffering and start being honest about what actually works. The funny thing is, we would never expect an athlete to run a race on an empty stomach after pulling an all-nighter, but we expect our brains to do mental marathons under those exact conditions every single day. It is a huge misunderstanding of how our bodies actually work, and it is costing you hours of your life that you will never get back. The first and most important shortcut to getting smart is actually pretty simple. You have to fix the machine before you ask it to do hard work. This means that before you even open a book, you need to do a quick check of your tank. Are you hungry? Eat a small snack, something with protein or healthy fats to give your brain some steady energy. Are you tired? Do not reach for more coffee to trick yourself. Instead, consider a 15-minute power nap or even just splashing cold water on your face to wake up your senses. Are you stressed out about something else? Take just 2 minutes to write down what is bothering you on a piece of paper, telling your brain that you will deal with it later, so it can finally focus on the task at hand. This quick check takes almost no time but changes everything about your session. This 5-minute preparation ritual might feel like a waste of time when you are in a hurry, but I promise you, it is the most valuable investment you can make in your study session. Think of it as sharpening the axe before you try to chop down the tree. If you try to chop with a dull blade, you will be swinging that axe for hours and getting nowhere. But if you take a few minutes to make that blade razor sharp, the tree will fall in just a few swings, and you will have energy left over to enjoy the rest of your day. Your brain works exactly the same way. A well-fed, well-rested, and calm brain is a razor-sharp axe that cuts through information with almost no effort at all. You will find that when your tank is full, you understand things faster, you remember them longer, and you actually enjoy the process of learning because it does not feel like a painful chore anymore. The quality of your learning skyrockets while the time you spend plummets, and that is a trade you should be excited to make every single time. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be saying to yourself that you do not have time to nap or to eat a proper snack because you have so much to do. But that is exactly the kind of thinking that keeps people trapped in the cycle of long, unproductive study sessions. You have to be willing to try the opposite approach just once to see the magic happen. Imagine finishing in 1 hour what used to take you 3, simply because you took 10 minutes to fuel up and rest first. That is not wasting time. That is buying yourself 2 extra hours of freedom later in the day. The goal here is not just to study less. It is to live more. And that starts with respecting your body as the amazing machine that it is. You would not expect your phone to run all day at 1% battery. So why do you expect that from your own brain? It is time to stop treating yourself like a robot and start treating yourself like a human who deserves to feel good while getting smart. So starting today, I want you to make a new promise to yourself. Before you sit down for any kind of learning, whether it is reading a book, watching an educational video, or preparing for a big presentation, you are going to do a quick body scan. You are going to ask yourself 3 simple questions. Am I hungry? Am I tired? And am I stressed? If the answer to any of those is yes, you are going to spend a few minutes fixing it. No excuses allowed. This is not being lazy. This is being strategic, and it is the very first step on our shortcut to becoming smart without burning out. You are going to be amazed at how much easier everything becomes when you stop fighting against your own biology and start working with it instead. Your brain will thank you, your schedule will thank you, and you will finally have the energy to enjoy the things you love outside of studying. Chapter 2. Your brain is a muscle, not a hard drive. For a very long time, people have talked about the brain like it is a computer, a hard drive where we just need to store more and more files until it gets full. This way of thinking is probably the biggest reason why studying feels so stressful and boring to so many people. When you think of your brain as a storage box, learning becomes a job of shoving facts inside, and you are always worried about forgetting them or running out of space. But the truth is, your brain is not a computer at all. It is much more like a muscle, and this one simple change in how you see things can completely transform your life. Muscles do not store things. They grow stronger when you use them, and they get weaker when you just leave them alone. When you understand this, learning stops being about cramming and starts being about building strength, which is a much more exciting and motivating goal. You stop fearing the forgetting and start embracing the growing. Think about how you build a muscle in the gym. You do not just watch someone else lift weights and expect your arms to get bigger. You have to actually do the lifting yourself. And it is the struggle, the act of lifting and lowering, that makes the muscle fibers grow. Learning works the exact same way. You cannot just read a book and expect the knowledge to magically stick. You have to lift the information by using it, questioning it, and wrestling with it a little bit. When you struggle to understand something, when you have to read a tricky sentence a couple of times, or when you try to explain a new idea to a friend, that is the mental exercise that makes your brain muscle stronger. This means that getting stuck or finding something hard is actually a good thing. It is the signal that your brain is right in the middle of a great workout and is about to get much smarter. You should actually start looking forward to those moments of confusion, because they are the best opportunities for growth. Every struggle is just a rep in your mental workout routine. This new way of thinking takes so much pressure off of you because it means you do not have to remember everything perfectly right away. Just like you would not expect to lift a heavy weight one time and have huge muscles forever, you should not expect to read a fact once and have it locked in your memory permanently. The goal is to exercise your understanding regularly, to come back to ideas, to play with them, and to connect them to other things you already know. Every time you do this, You are giving your brain a little workout, and over time, that mental muscle grows bigger and stronger. You will start to notice that you can grasp new concepts faster because your brain is more fit, just like a runner finds it easier to go farther after months of training. You are not just collecting facts. You are building a powerful mind that can handle anything you throw at it. This makes you flexible and adaptable, not just full of information. So, how do you actually treat your brain like a muscle in your daily life? It is simpler than you might think. Instead of just reading a chapter and closing the book, you should spend a few minutes doing a quick mental rep. This could mean closing your eyes and trying to summarize what you just read in your own words, or it could mean drawing a little doodle that represents the main idea. It might even mean coming up with a question about the topic that the book did not answer, something that makes you curious to learn more. These small actions are the equivalent of doing a bicep curl for your brain. They take very little time, but they build incredible strength and make sure the knowledge actually sticks around. You are moving from being a passive receiver of information to an active builder of understanding, and that is where the real magic happens. Your brain loves this active role and rewards you with better recall. The best part about this brain muscle idea is that it makes you feel powerful and in control of your own intelligence. You are no longer a victim of a bad memory or a slow learner. You are just someone whose brain muscle needs a little more exercise in certain areas. When you struggle with a difficult topic, you can smile to yourself and think, "Great, my brain is about to get a good workout." This positive attitude changes everything because it removes the fear and frustration that usually comes with hard subjects. You start to see challenges as opportunities to grow stronger, and that curiosity and enthusiasm will keep you motivated to learn more, not because you have to, but because it feels good to see your mental muscles flex. You become addicted to the growth, not just the grades. Chapter 3: The Focus Funnel. Have you ever sat down to read something important, and then 2 minutes later you realize you are thinking about what you are going to have for dinner or that funny thing your friend said yesterday? This happens to everyone, and it is not a sign that you are broken or that you have a bad attention span. It is just how human brains are wired to work. Your mind is naturally curious and likes to wander around, exploring different thoughts like a little puppy running through a park. The problem is not that your mind wanders. The problem is that most people get really upset about it and waste even more energy being angry at themselves. They spend 5 minutes distracted, then 5 minutes feeling guilty about being distracted, and suddenly a whole hour has gone by with almost no real learning happening at all. This cycle of distraction and guilt is the real enemy of focus. This is where the idea of the focus funnel comes in to save the day and make you feel calm and in control again. Imagine a funnel. It is wide at the top and narrow at the bottom, and its job is to catch everything and guide it gently to one small point. Your attention works the same way. At the top of the funnel, there are a million thoughts, sounds, and feelings all competing for your attention. The goal is not to block them out or to pretend they do not exist, because that just makes them scream louder in your head. The goal is to gently guide them through the funnel, one at a time, so that at the bottom, all your focus is narrowed down to just one thing, the book or material in front of you. This is a gentle process, not a forceful one, and it works with your brain instead of against it. You become the guide of your attention, not the fighter of it. So how does this work when you are actually studying? Let us say you are reading a paragraph, and suddenly you start thinking about a text message you need to send. In the old way of thinking, you would probably get annoyed and tell yourself to stop being so distracted, but that just makes the thought about the text message stronger. In the new focus funnel way, you simply notice the thought. You say to yourself, "Oh, there is a thought about a text message," and then you make a quick decision. You can either write the thought down on a piece of paper to deal with later, or if it is super important, you can take 10 seconds to send the text right then and there. The key is that you acknowledge the thought, deal with it quickly, and then gently guide your attention back to the page without any anger or frustration. This small act of acknowledgement is incredibly powerful and calming for your mind. This method works because it treats your wandering mind as a friend instead of an enemy. When you stop fighting your thoughts and just start noticing them and guiding them, they actually become much quieter and less demanding. It is like dealing with a little kid who is tugging on your shirt. If you yell at the kid to go away, they will just tug harder and maybe even start crying. But if you turn around, look at the kid and say, "I see you. What do you need?" The kid usually calms down and feels heard. Your thoughts are the same way. They just want a little bit of attention. And once they get it, they are usually happy to let you get back to work. This simple shift from fighting to guiding can reduce your stress levels immediately and make studying feel much more peaceful. You build a friendship with your mind instead of a war. The more you practice using your focus funnel, the better and faster you get at it. At first, you might notice your mind wandering every single minute, and that is perfectly okay. You are just building a new habit. Just gently keep bringing your attention back over and over again without any judgment. After a while, you will notice that the periods of deep focus get longer and longer, and the distractions have less power over you. You are not becoming a robot with no thoughts. You are becoming a master of your own mind, someone who can choose where to put their attention instead of being pushed around by every passing thought. This is a superpower that will help you not just in studying, but in every single part of your life. Imagine being able to focus deeply on anything you choose, whenever you choose. Chapter 4: The 50% Rule. This next idea might sound a little strange at first, and it might even go against everything your teachers have ever told you, but it is one of the most powerful secrets to learning more by studying less. It is called the 50% Rule, and it is very simple. You should stop your study session when you still feel like you have more to give, when you are at about 50% of your energy left. Most people study until they are completely exhausted, until their brain feels like mush and they cannot look at another word. They think that this suffering means they worked hard, but in reality, they have just taught their brain that studying is a miserable experience that ends in pain and burnout. When you always study until you are completely drained, your brain starts to dread the very idea of opening a book, and it will fight you every step of the way. You are essentially training yourself to hate learning. The 50% rule works because it keeps your brain curious and hungry for more. Imagine you are eating the most delicious pizza you have ever tasted, and you eat until you are so full that you feel sick. The next time someone offers you that pizza, you might actually feel a little bit grossed out just thinking about it. But if you stop eating that pizza when you are still a little bit hungry, when you are still enjoying every single bite, you will be excited and eager to have it again tomorrow. Learning is exactly the same. If you stop when you are still feeling good, when your brain is still engaged and interested, you will actually look forward to your next study session. Your brain will remember the experience as something positive and fun, not as a drain on your energy and spirit. This simple change can completely flip your attitude toward learning. Now you might be wondering how you know when you are at 50% energy, and that is a fair question because it is not an exact science. A good rule of thumb is to stop when you feel the first real sign of mental fatigue. Maybe your eyes start to get heavy, or you find yourself rereading a sentence for the second time, or you just feel a general sense of, "I am a little tired of this." That is your signal to stop, even if you have only been studying for 20 minutes. Trust that signal. It is your brain telling you that it has had a good workout and needs to rest to grow stronger. Pushing past that point is like doing another 10 heavy squats when your legs are already shaking. You might finish, but you will be so sore tomorrow that you cannot even walk. Respect the signal and stop while you are ahead. The beauty of this rule is that it actually makes you more productive in the long run because you will study more often. When studying feels good, you will want to do it every day, maybe even twice a day, in short, focused bursts. Instead of one miserable 4-hour session on a Sunday night that you dread all weekend, you might do 4 happy and focused 45-minute sessions throughout the week. That adds up to 3 hours of high-quality learning compared to 4 hours of low-quality suffering, and you actually remember more from the happy sessions. You are also giving your brain time between sessions to rest and build those mental muscles, so you come back stronger each time. It is a win-win situation in every possible way. So give yourself permission to stop early, to close the book while you are still feeling good and curious about what comes next. This is not quitting. This is strategic planning for long-term success and a happy relationship with learning. Write down one sentence about where you stopped and what you were thinking about, so you know exactly where to pick up tomorrow with excitement. Then go do something you enjoy. Go for a walk, call a friend, or just sit and relax without any guilt at all. You have earned that break, and your brain is going to use that time to process and strengthen everything you just learned. The 50% rule is your ticket to becoming someone who loves to learn. Chapter 5. The Feynman Finger Point. There was a famous scientist named Richard Feynman, and he was known for being able to explain the most complicated things in the universe in a way that anyone could understand. He believed that if you could not explain something simply, then you did not really understand it yourself, and this idea has become one of the most powerful learning tools in the world. We are going to call it the Feynman Finger Point, and it is going to become your best friend when you want to check if you actually know something or if you are just fooling yourself. The idea is simple. After you learn something new, you try to explain it out loud, in plain and simple words, as if you were talking to a young child who has never heard of it before. If you can do that smoothly, you have mastered the topic. But if you get stuck or use complicated words to hide your confusion, you have found a gap in your understanding. This finger points directly at what you still need to work on. Most people trick themselves into thinking they know something because they can recognize the words when they read them, or they can nod along while someone else explains it. But recognition is not the same as understanding, and this is where most students waste hours rereading material they think they know. The Feynman finger point forces you to move from passive recognition to active understanding, which is a much harder but also much more effective kind of learning. When you have to generate the explanation yourself, without any help from the book, your brain has to work hard to pull all the pieces together and make sense of them. That hard work is exactly what builds the strong mental muscles we talked about earlier. You go from being a passenger on a tour bus to being the driver who knows every turn in the road. So how do you actually practice this in your daily life? It is actually a lot of fun, and you can do it anywhere, while you are driving, while you are taking a shower, or while you are making dinner. After you finish reading a section or watching a video, just pause and pretend that a curious child has walked into the room and asked you what you just learned. Start talking out loud, using the simplest words you can find, and try to explain the main idea from beginning to end. If you find a spot where your explanation gets messy or you cannot remember a key point, you have just found your weak spot, and you can go back to the material to clear it up. This is so much faster than just rereading the whole chapter and hoping something sticks. You are targeting your weak points with surgical precision. The magic of this method is that it also shows you how much you actually know, which is incredibly motivating. When you successfully explain a tricky idea in simple terms, you feel a rush of confidence and pride because you know you have truly mastered it. That feeling is addictive, and it makes you want to learn more just so you can experience it again. You are no longer studying just to pass a test. You are studying to achieve that wonderful moment of clarity where everything clicks and you become the teacher. It turns learning into a game where the goal is to become simple enough to teach a child. And the best part is that you can do it alone, no audience required. Try it right now with something you learned recently, even if it is just from a conversation or a video you watched yesterday. Point your finger at an imaginary listener and try to explain it in the simplest words possible. Notice where you feel confident and where you stumble, and let those stumbles guide your next learning session. This one habit, practiced for just a few minutes each day, will transform you from someone who collects information into someone who truly understands the world. The Feynman finger point never lies, and it will always show you the path to true mastery. Chapter 6. The Highlighting Hoax. Walk into any library or bookstore and look at the used books for sale, you will see pages and pages covered in bright yellow, pink, and green highlighter marks. Most people believe that this highlighting is a sign of hard work, that those colored lines mean someone was actively engaged with the material and marking the important parts to remember later. But here is the truth that might surprise you. Highlighting is often just a trick we play on ourselves to feel productive while our brains are actually on vacation. When you run a marker across a sentence, your hand is moving, but your brain is often just sitting there watching, not really processing or understanding anything at all. You feel like you are working, but you are just decorating the page, and that decoration does very little to help you remember the information later. It is a comfortable habit, but it is also a huge waste of your precious time. The reason highlighting fails is that it is a passive activity. It does not require your brain to do any heavy lifting or to make any connections. You are simply identifying information that already looks important, usually because the book made it bold or because the teacher said it would be on the test. But real learning happens when you struggle with the information, when you rephrase it in your own words, when you question it, and when you connect it to things you already know. Highlighting skips all of that important mental work and gives you the illusion of understanding without the reality of it. Later, when you look back at those bright yellow pages, the highlighted words often look foreign to you because your brain never truly adopted them as its own. You have a page full of decorations but an empty head. So if highlighting is a hoax, what should you do instead to capture important ideas? The answer is to use a method that forces your brain to engage, and one of the best is to take notes in your own words, but only after you have finished a whole section or chapter. Instead of highlighting as you read, which interrupts your flow, you read a chunk of information and then close the book and write down the main points from memory. This act of retrieval, of pulling information out of your brain, is one of the most powerful learning activities known to science. It feels harder than highlighting because it is harder, but that difficulty is exactly what builds strong memories. You are giving your brain a workout instead of a nap. Another great alternative is to write questions in the margins of your book instead of underlining answers. When you come across an important fact, turn it into a question and write that question down next to it. Later, when you review, you can cover up the text and try to answer your own questions, which is another form of active recall. This turns your book into a study guide that you created yourself, tailored exactly to what you need to learn. You become an active participant in your learning instead of a passive spectator watching colored ink dry on a page. Your brain stays alert and engaged the whole time. Try an experiment this week. Pick one chapter of a book you are reading and do not highlight a single word. Instead, read a section, close the book, and jot down a few bullet points in your own words. Then open the book and check if you got the main ideas correct. You will likely find that this method takes a little more mental effort, but that effort means you will remember the information for days and weeks afterward, not just until you close the book. You will never look at a highlighter the same way again, and you will be amazed at how much more you retain from every single study session. Chapter 7. The Memory Palace, Your Brain's GPS. Imagine if you could store everything you needed to remember in a place you already knew perfectly, like your own home, and then just take a mental walk through that place whenever you needed to recall the information. This is not science fiction. It is an ancient memory technique called the memory palace, and it has been used for thousands of years by great thinkers and speakers to remember enormous amounts of information without writing anything down. The idea is beautifully simple. You take a familiar place like your house, your school, or even your daily walking route, and you mentally place the things you want to remember in specific locations along the way. When you need to remember them, you just take a mental walk through that place and look for the items you stored there. It turns your memory from a messy pile of papers into a neatly organized filing system that is actually fun to use. Let us say you need to remember a list of things for a test, maybe the causes of a historical event or the steps of a scientific process. Instead of staring at a list and trying to repeat it over and over until it sticks, you can take a walk through your living room in your mind. You might put the first cause on your front door, hanging there like a sign. You might put the second cause on your couch. Imagine it sitting there looking important. You might put the third cause on your television screen, playing out like a little movie. The stranger and more colorful you make these mental images, the easier they will be to remember later because your brain loves weird and funny things. You are using your natural spatial memory, the part of your brain that already remembers exactly where your furniture is, to carry the load for your fact memory. The reason this works so well is that our brains evolved to remember places and images much better than they remember abstract facts and lists. Thousands of years ago, our survival depended on remembering where the safe cave was and where the dangerous animals lived, not on memorizing dates and formulas. When you use a memory palace, you are speaking the ancient language of your brain, the language it was designed to understand perfectly. You are not fighting against your brain's natural design, you are working with it, and that makes learning feel effortless and natural. The information sticks because it is attached to something your brain already cares about, your familiar environment. Building your first memory palace is easy and fun, and you can start right now. Just close your eyes and picture the front door of your home. Now mentally walk through each room in the order you usually go and pick 5 or 10 specific spots to use as storage locations. A spot could be your doormat, a specific chair, a lamp, a picture on the wall, or your kitchen sink. Once you have your spots picked out and memorized, you are ready to start storing information. The next time you have a short list of things to remember, practice placing each item on one of your spots and see how easily you can recall them later just by taking that mental walk. You can build as many memory palaces as you want for different subjects, one for history facts, one for vocabulary words, one for work presentations. With practice, you will get faster and faster at creating these mental storage systems, and you will amaze yourself with how much you can remember. This technique turns memorization from a boring chore into a creative and playful game that you will actually look forward to playing. Your brain will thank you for finally speaking its language. Chapter 8: The Two-Pile Strategy. One of the biggest reasons people waste so much time studying is that they treat every single piece of information as if it is equally important. They read every word of every chapter with the same level of attention, and they try to remember every little fact and detail that comes their way. This is like trying to fill a bucket with water from a fire hose. You are going to get soaked. Most of the water is going to miss the bucket, and you are going to feel completely overwhelmed. The truth is that in any subject, there is a small pile of information that is absolutely essential, the core ideas that everything else hangs on, and a huge pile of information that is just there for support, examples, or interesting stories. Your job is to learn to tell the difference between these two piles and to spend your energy accordingly. This is where the two-pile strategy comes in to save your time and your sanity. Before you even start reading a chapter or watching a lecture, you take a quick look at the big picture. You scan the headings, the bold words, the summaries at the end, and any questions the book provides. This gives you a map of the territory and helps you guess what might be in the important pile versus the nice-to-know pile. Then, as you go through the material, you are constantly asking yourself one simple question: is this a main idea that holds up the whole building, or is this just a brick in the wall? The main ideas go into your first pile, the must-know pile, and you give them your full attention, your active recall, and your memory palace spots. The supporting details go into your second pile, and you just let them wash over you without stressing about memorizing them perfectly. Most students do the opposite. They get so caught up in the little details and interesting stories that they forget to grab the main structure. They can tell you a funny story from the textbook, but cannot explain the main theory the story was supposed to illustrate. By focusing on the essential pile first, you build a strong mental framework that gives you a place to hang all those little details later if you need them. You are building the skeleton of the subject before you add the muscles and skin, and that skeleton makes everything else make sense. You move from confusion to clarity much faster. This strategy also protects you from the feeling of being overwhelmed that makes so many people give up on learning. When you look at a huge textbook and know that you only need to truly master the core ideas, the book shrinks down to a manageable size in your mind. You realize that most of the pages are just there to help you understand those core ideas better, not to be memorized themselves. This takes the pressure off and allows you to relax and actually enjoy the reading because you are not panicking about remembering every single word. You become a smart filter, not a desperate sponge. So next time you sit down to learn something new, take 5 minutes at the beginning to identify your two piles. What are the 3 to 5 big ideas that the whole chapter is built around? Write those down and treat them like gold. Then, as you read, let the rest of the information flow around you. Enjoy the examples, appreciate the stories, but do not stress about locking them into your memory. You will find that you actually remember more of the supporting details anyway, because they are attached to those strong main ideas you worked so hard to master. Chapter 9: The Pomodoro Pulse. There is a simple time management trick that has taken the world by storm, and it is named after a kitchen timer shaped like a tomato, or pomodoro in Italian. The idea is beautifully simple. You set a timer for 25 minutes and you work on one single task with total focus until the timer rings. Then you take a short break of 5 minutes to stretch, breathe, or get a drink, and then you start another 25-minute session. After doing 4 of these tomato sessions, you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes to really relax and let your brain recover. This method is called the Pomodoro technique. And it is like magic for people who want to learn more while studying less, because it works with your brain's natural rhythm instead of against it. Your brain loves to work in short, focused bursts, and it hates to work for hours on end without a break. The reason this pulse of work and rest is so effective is that it solves the 2 biggest problems of studying: the difficulty of starting and the danger of burning out. When you know you only have to focus for 25 minutes, the task in front of you does not look so scary anymore. Anyone can do anything for 25 minutes, right? This makes it so much easier to sit down and begin, which is often the hardest part of the whole process. And because you know a break is coming soon, you can push through small distractions and stay focused, knowing that you will have time to check your phone or daydream in just a little while. The timer becomes your coach, keeping you on track and motivated. During those 25 minutes, you have to commit to doing one thing and one thing only. No checking emails, no switching to another subject, no getting up to find a snack. If a thought pops into your head that is not related to your work, just write it down quickly on a piece of paper to deal with later and get right back to focusing. This single tasking is so much more powerful than multitasking, which just splits your attention and makes everything take longer. You will be amazed at how much you can get done in just one focused 25-minute session when you are not letting your phone or your wandering mind steal your attention. The quality of your work goes up while the time you spend goes down. The breaks are just as important as the work sessions, and you have to take them seriously. When the timer rings, you stop immediately, even if you are in the middle of a great idea, because that idea will still be there when you come back. During your 5-minute break, you should get up from your desk, move your body, look at something far away to rest your eyes, and absolutely do not start scrolling through social media, which will just suck you in and exhaust your brain further. You want to give your brain a true rest so it can recharge for the next pulse of focus. These short breaks keep your energy levels high all day long. Try the Pomodoro Pulse for just one day and see how it changes your relationship with work and study. Set a timer right now and commit to 25 minutes of focused attention on one thing, and then give yourself the gift of a 5-minute break afterward. You will likely find that you get more done in that short time than you usually do in an hour of distracted, unfocused work. This simple rhythm of pulse and pause can transform your life and make you feel productive and calm instead of busy and overwhelmed. Chapter 10. The Distraction Log. We live in a world that is specifically designed to steal your attention, with notifications buzzing, videos auto-playing, and apps competing for every second of your day. It is not your fault that you get distracted easily. You are fighting against some of the smartest engineers in the world who are paid to keep you looking at their screens. But even though it is not your fault, it is still your problem to solve if you want to learn more in less time. The good news is that there is a simple tool that can help you take back control, and it is called the Distraction Log. It is not a complicated app or a piece of fancy technology. It is just a plain piece of paper where you write down every single distraction that pops into your head while you are trying to study. Here is how it works. You keep a notebook or a sticky note next to you while you study, and anytime a thought pops into your head that is not related to what you are doing, you write it down immediately. Maybe you remember that you need to buy groceries, write it down. Maybe you think about a funny video you want to watch later, write it down. Maybe you remember that you forgot to reply to a friend's text, write it down. The act of writing it down does two amazing things. First, it gets the thought out of your head so it stops bouncing around and demanding your attention. And second, it gives you a promise that you will deal with it later, so your brain can relax and focus on the present moment. You are capturing the distraction instead of being captured by it. The magic of the Distraction Log is that it treats your wandering mind with kindness and respect instead of anger and frustration. In the old way, when a distraction popped up, you might have gotten annoyed at yourself and tried to push the thought away, which just makes it stronger. In the new way, you simply notice the thought, write it down, and gently return to your work without any negative self-talk at all. You are not a bad person for having thoughts. You are a human being with a busy life, and this log helps you manage that busyness without letting it ruin your focus. It turns distractions from enemies into simple items on a to-do list that you will handle later. At the end of your study session, you can look at your distraction log and smile because you have a record of everything your brain was worried about. You can then take 5 minutes to actually deal with those items. Send the text, add the groceries to your shopping list, or just acknowledge that the funny video can wait until later. This clears your mind completely and leaves you feeling organized and in control. You will also start to notice patterns in your distractions. Maybe you always get hungry at a certain time, or maybe you always think about a particular person or task. This awareness allows you to plan ahead and remove those distractions before they even appear. Try using the Distraction Log for your next 3 study sessions and watch how your focus improves. Just having that piece of paper next to you is often enough to quiet the noise in your head because your brain knows there is a safe place to put those thoughts. You will find that you can stay focused for longer periods, and you will feel much calmer and less anxious during your study time, because you are not constantly worried about forgetting all the other things you need to do. This simple tool gives you the peace of mind to learn deeply and well. Chapter 11. The Switchback Method. Have you ever noticed that if you eat the same food every single day, you eventually get sick of it, even if it is your favorite food in the world? Your brain works the same way with information. If you study the same subject for hours on end, your brain gets bored and starts to tune out, no matter how interesting the topic might be. This is called mental fatigue from repetition, and it is one of the biggest reasons why long study sessions are so unproductive. But there is a clever way to beat this boredom and actually make your brain stronger at the same time, and it is called the switchback method. Instead of studying one subject for 3 hours, you switch back and forth between 2 or 3 different subjects in shorter blocks of time, like hiking a trail that switches back up a mountain to make the climb easier. The switchback method works because it keeps your brain alert and engaged by giving it variety and novelty. When you switch from history to math, your brain has to shift gears and look at the world from a completely different angle, and this mental shifting is actually a great workout for your mind. It keeps you from getting bored and zoned out because just as you are starting to feel tired of one subject, you get to move on to something fresh and new. You come back to the first subject later with renewed energy and a fresh perspective, often seeing connections you missed before. This variety makes your study time feel shorter and more interesting, like watching a TV show with multiple storylines instead of a boring movie that never ends. There is also a scientific reason why this method works so well for memory. When you study the same thing for a long time, your brain gets into a rhythm and stops paying as much attention. But when you switch between topics, each subject stands out more clearly in your mind. The contrast between the subjects helps your brain separate them and store them in different mental folders, which makes them easier to find later when you need them. It is like organizing your closet by color instead of just throwing everything in together. Everything is easier to find and looks better too. You are building a more organized and accessible memory. The best way to use the switchback method is to plan your study sessions in blocks of around 30 to 45 minutes per subject. You might do one block of vocabulary, then one block of science, then one block of history, and then take a longer break before starting the cycle again. This rhythm keeps your brain guessing and engaged. And it prevents the dreaded feeling of being stuck in one topic for hours. You can even switch between hard subjects and easier subjects to give your brain a little rest while still being productive. The key is to keep moving and keep things fresh. Try the switchback method next time you have a lot to study and see how much more you remember by the end of the day. You will likely find that you feel less tired and more interested in all of your subjects because you never had time to get bored with any of them. Your brain will thank you for the variety, and you will actually look forward to switching to the next topic instead of dreading another hour of the same old thing. Learning becomes a dynamic and exciting journey instead of a boring slog. Chapter 12: The No-Notes Night. There is one thing that most students sacrifice when things get busy, and it is the one thing that is absolutely essential for learning and memory. That thing is sleep. When you pull an all-nighter or cut your sleep short to study more, you are actually undoing almost all of the work you just did, and you are making yourself dumber for the next day. While you sleep, your brain is not just resting. It is working incredibly hard to process everything you learned during the day, filing away the important memories and getting rid of the junk. It is like having a team of tiny office workers who come in at night to organize all the papers on your desk so you can find them easily in the morning. If you do not sleep, those workers never show up, and your memories stay in a big messy pile where you cannot find them. The no-notes night is a promise you make to yourself that you will never sacrifice sleep for studying, because you now understand that sleep is actually the most powerful study session of all. When you learn something new during the day, it is stored in a temporary and fragile part of your brain, like a sticky note that can easily blow away. During deep sleep, your brain takes those sticky notes and moves them to a permanent storage folder, a process called consolidation, so they become solid memories that you can access for years to come. If you cut your sleep short, you interrupt this process, and many of those sticky notes just blow away and are lost forever. You literally forget what you learned because you did not give your brain time to save the files. This means that getting a full night of sleep after studying is just as important as the studying itself, and maybe even more important. You could study for 4 hours, but if you only sleep for 4 hours afterward, you might remember less than someone who studied for 2 hours and then slept for 8. The quality of your sleep directly determines the quality of your memory. So you have to start treating your sleep like the precious learning tool that it is. Going to bed at a reasonable time is not being lazy. It is being smart about protecting your investment in learning. You are giving your brain the time it needs to turn your hard work into lasting knowledge. So, what does a good no-notes night look like? It means putting away your screens at least 30 minutes before bed, because the blue light tricks your brain into thinking it is still daytime and makes it harder to fall asleep. It means creating a relaxing bedtime routine, maybe reading a fun book, taking a warm shower, or doing some gentle stretching to tell your body that it is time to wind down. It means aiming for 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night, not just on weekends, to give your brain the full night shift it needs to do its work. And it means trusting that when you wake up, the information you learned yesterday will be clearer and easier to access because your brain has been organizing it all night long. Make a commitment right now to protect your sleep like it is the most important part of your study plan. When you're tempted to stay up late to cram a little more, remember that you are not helping yourself. You are actually stealing from your own memory. Go to bed on time, wake up feeling rested, and watch how much sharper and faster your brain becomes. The no notes, night is your secret weapon for learning more while actually doing less. Chapter 13, The 5-Minute Recall. Here is one of the smallest habits you can build that delivers some of the biggest results in learning, and it only takes 5 minutes a day. It is called the 5-minute recall, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You take 5 minutes at the end of your day to sit quietly and try to remember the most important things you learned. No books, no notes, no screens, just you and your brain working together to pull up the memories from the day. This simple practice forces your brain to practice the skill of retrieval, which is the same skill you need when you are taking a test or trying to remember something in a conversation. The more you practice pulling information out of your brain, the easier and faster it becomes to do it when you really need it. The reason this 5-minute habit is so powerful is that it interrupts the natural process of forgetting that happens to everyone. Your brain is designed to forget things that seem unimportant, and if you do not actively review what you learned, your brain assumes it must not be very important and throws it away. But when you take just 5 minutes to recall the information, you are sending a strong signal to your brain that says, "Hey, this stuff matters, please keep it." This simple signal is often enough to move the information from your short-term memory into your long-term storage, where it will stay safe for much longer. You are essentially telling your brain what to keep and what to let go. The 5-minute recall does not have to be a boring or stressful activity. You can make it fun and creative. You might try to teach the main idea to an imaginary student, or you might draw a quick doodle that represents what you learned. You might even try to come up with a song or a rhyme that helps you remember a key fact. The goal is simply to actively engage with the information and pull it out of your memory, and the more creative and playful you are, the more your brain will enjoy the process and the better it will work. You are building a positive relationship with review instead of dreading it. You can do your 5-minute recall anywhere, while you are lying in bed before sleep, while you are brushing your teeth, or while you are waiting for the bus. The key is to make it a consistent habit, something you do every single day without thinking about it. You might even set a daily alarm on your phone to remind you, and after a few weeks, it will become as natural as brushing your teeth. You will start to notice that you remember things more clearly and for longer periods, and you will feel more confident in your knowledge because you have practiced accessing it every day. Start your 5-minute recall habit tonight and see what a difference it makes in just 1 week. Take out a piece of paper or just sit quietly and ask yourself, what is the most important thing I learned today? Then try to explain it, draw it, or just think about it for a few minutes without looking anything up. You will be amazed at how much clearer that information becomes and how much easier it is to remember the next day. Chapter 14, The Smart Failure. Nobody likes to get things wrong. It feels bad, it hurts our pride, and it makes us feel like we are not smart enough. But what if I told you that getting things wrong is actually one of the best things that can happen to you if you want to learn faster and remember more? This idea is called smart failure, and it is about changing your relationship with mistakes from one of fear and shame to one of curiosity and excitement. When you get an answer wrong on a practice test, or when you try to explain something and realize you do not actually understand it, you have just found a goldmine of learning opportunity. Your brain takes notice of mistakes much more than it notices correct answers, and it pays extra attention to fixing them. Think about it this way: if you get every single practice question right, your brain thinks, Well, I guess we already know this stuff, nothing more to do here. But when you get a question wrong, your brain sounds an alarm and says, "Warning, we do not know this, pay attention so we can fix it." This alarm state actually makes you more alert and more receptive to learning the correct information, and the mistake itself becomes a powerful memory cue. Later, when you see that type of question again, your brain will remember the mistake and the correction, and you will be much less likely to get it wrong a second time. The mistake becomes a stepping stone to mastery. This means that you should actually seek out opportunities to make mistakes in a safe environment, like when you are practicing or studying on your own. You should take practice tests not to prove how much you know, but to find the gaps in your knowledge that you need to fill. Every wrong answer is a gift that shows you exactly where to focus your next study session. Instead of feeling discouraged when you get something wrong, you should feel grateful and say, "Thank you, mistake, for showing me what I need to learn next." This simple shift in attitude turns failure from an enemy into your personal tutor. The key to smart failure is to always follow up a mistake by learning the correct answer and understanding why you got it wrong. Do not just look at the right answer and move on. Dig a little deeper and ask yourself what led you astray. Did you misunderstand the question? Did you forget a key fact? Did you confuse two similar ideas? Once you understand the reason for your mistake, you can take steps to fix it, maybe by adding that fact to your memory palace or by practicing that type of question again. You turn every mistake into a lesson that makes you stronger. Start celebrating your mistakes today instead of hiding from them. The next time you get a practice question wrong, give yourself a little high five and say, "Great, I just found something to learn." Then take a minute to understand the mistake and lock in the correct answer. You will be amazed at how much faster you learn when you stop being afraid of being wrong and start seeing every error as a gift. Chapter 15. Teaching the Error. There is one final test that separates those who truly understand a subject from those who are just pretending, and that test is teaching it to someone else. But you do not always have a willing friend or family member around to listen to you talk about what you are learning, and that is where teaching the air comes in. This is the practice of standing up, or even just sitting in your chair, and delivering a short lesson to an imaginary audience, like you are the teacher and the whole room is full of students waiting to learn from you. It might feel a little silly at first, talking to nobody, but it is actually one of the most powerful learning tools in existence. When you have to organize your thoughts into a clear lesson and speak them out loud, you quickly find out what you really know and where you are still confused. Teaching the air forces you to connect all the pieces of a topic into a smooth and logical story. When you are just reading or reviewing silently, it is easy to jump around and ignore the gaps in your understanding. But when you have to teach, you have to start at the beginning and walk your imaginary students through the whole journey step by step, and any missing pieces become painfully obvious because you get stuck and cannot move forward. Those stuck moments are pure gold because they shine a bright light on exactly what you need to study next. You become your own best teacher and your own best student at the same time. This practice also builds incredible confidence because when you successfully teach a topic to the air, explaining it clearly and smoothly from start to finish, you know without a doubt that you have mastered it. You have moved beyond just knowing the facts to being able to communicate them, which is a much deeper level of understanding. That confidence will stay with you when you walk into a test or a meeting because you have already practiced explaining the ideas out loud, and they feel familiar and solid in your mind. You are not hopping you know the answer, you know it. You can make teaching the air even more powerful by pretending you are teaching to someone who knows nothing about the topic, like a young student. This forces you to use simple language, to define all your terms, and to explain the basic building blocks before you move on to the complicated parts. This is exactly the same as the Feynman finger point we learned earlier, and it is a foolproof way to check your understanding. If you can make it simple, you have mastered it. Try teaching the air after your next study session. Just stand up and spend 5 minutes explaining what you learned to your empty room. Pretend there are questions coming from the audience and try to answer them. Notice where you feel confident and where you stumble, and let those stumbles guide your next round of learning. This one practice, done regularly, will transform you from a student into a true master of any subject you choose to tackle. Conclusion. You have made it to the end of this journey, but the real adventure is just beginning. You now have a toolbox full of powerful shortcuts, the focus funnel to guide your attention, the 50% rule to keep you hungry for more, the Feynman finger point to check your understanding, the memory palace to store your knowledge, and so many other tricks to make learning faster, easier, and more fun. The most important thing to remember is that you do not have to use all of these tools at once. Just pick one or two that feel exciting to you and start practicing them today. The path to getting smart is not about suffering through long hours. It is about working smarter, respecting your brain, and enjoying the process of discovery. You are now a shortcutter, someone who knows that time is precious and that learning should feel good, not painful. Go out there and amaze yourself with how much you can learn in so little time, and remember to be kind to yourself along the way. Every mistake is a lesson, every distraction is just a thought to be logged, and every night of sleep is a chance to grow stronger. You have everything you need inside you right now to become the smart, confident, and curious person you have always wanted to be. The shortcut is yours, now go take it.